you for tuning in to this month's Brown Bag Lunch, sponsored by the ABAA and the Gender Equity Initiative. We have a guest today, a special guest that everybody will probably recognize. We have Pom Harrington here from Peter Harrington. Pom is going to discuss the current challenges in rare book security, including online fraud. He's drawing on his experience as a former president of the ABA and security chair for the ABA and ILAB forums, and he will outline practical measures for improving security standards across the trade. So I know everybody in the trade and collectors will have some great questions. Um, Pom Harrington has worked in the rare book trade for over 30 years. As the owner of Peter Harrington, he has helped establish the firm as a leading international bookseller with galleries in London and now New York. Welcome, Pom.
Thank you. Big build up. But thank you. I'm writing. I mean, this talk is based on my experiences of Peter Harrington. We are obviously one of the larger size bookshops, and therefore we seem to attract more mischief than I think most booksellers might otherwise receive. And so I've been asked to present this talk on fraud prevention. I originally did this in Melbourne for the ILAB symposium that was down there in July, and this was written for that. So apparently it was good enough to be asked to do for this brown bag series, and happy to do so. So for background, and I know a lot of you do know me, but just to fill you in, so we operate actually from 5 premises. We have 3 retail premises, we have 1 back office, and we also have a book bindery. And to do all this, we have 75 employees. And this comes with challenges in this digital age. That's a lot of laptops and computers, and really we have to learn to protect ourselves and our staff, customers, and to protect ourselves without exaggeration, a constant attack on our business. When I spoke about this in July, people were surprised and actually came out quite scared. So I'm going to try and tone this down a bit, because most of what I'm going to share with you is quite rare. So hacks, fraud, or simply malicious email attacks happen regularly, and we have attempts on us regularly. We've learned over the years, and sometimes the hard way, but we've developed a series of measures and procedures to protect ourselves, and that's what I'm going to share with you today. What I'm going to describe to you today has happened to us or other people that I know. So these are real case scenarios. And I'm telling you this very importantly as a bookshop business owner, not a security expert, which I'm not. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is internet security, namely e-commerce, website server, and email protection. So most of us will have an e-commerce website, but also servers to run the business. And those servers will run things such as databases, your emails, your financial details, personal details, all kinds of things. So firstly, websites. So many booksellers use hosted e-commerce platforms, something like Bibliopolis. Their job is to provide robust e-commerce sites that cannot be hacked. And these platforms will handle most of the heavy lifting for you on security updates and monitoring, and they will minimize the risk of anything bad happening to you and your business. So when their website is down for an hour, this is often due to some latest security patch that's had to be issued, and it's emergency, and that's why it's sudden. But this is done to protect the sites, so it's them doing their job. And a lot of us do not use a company like that. Some of us go bespoke, and for good commercial reasons. We find some clever website designer and they'll promise the earth. They'll give you some updated, personalized, flashy, Google-loving e-commerce selling machine, and something that so you can rule the world of rare book selling. And a lot of us have tried to do this. It's complicated and difficult. However, if you manage your own website and your own server, the responsibility for protecting it falls squarely on you. Your website designer will set it all up for you, hand it over, and to be honest, you're kind of on your own, okay? And it's your responsibility to make sure that it's kept up to date. And this is crucial because a compromised site can lead to data breaches, blackmail attempts, and even a website cloning. where fraudsters create near identical websites and try and scam your customers. And I asked the question earlier to my IT person, what do you mean? Um, and a clone site can do one of two things. They can take basically a copy of your website and they can put some fake product pages on there. And when people come along and buy something from your site, they're collecting the money. Unusual, but has happened, and it's happened to a London bookseller this year. The other thing they can do if they do somehow get into your site is change the payment platform. So if people buy something from you, they get the money, not you. But you know, it's rare that happens, but this is why you have to protect your site. The what else are they after? Well, it's data. So they can be after customers' details. You shouldn't have any credit card details on your website these days. That should be long gone. Um, but you're cataloging your photos. They probably don't care about that. What they might care about, however, if you have accounts on your website, is your customer's email address and their passwords, because that's the phishing. They'll harvest that data. So they are interested in that. Blackmail, well, they can destroy it. They can blackmail you, freeze it, make it useless, unless you pay a ransom. So these are the things that might happen if someone hacks your website. Rare and unusual. But it did happen to the British Library in the last 2 years, and it was really serious. British Library is a big institution, and they were really caught out. They were basically ransom demand of 18 bitcoins, which I think was about at the time $1.1 million. They're a government institution; they could not pay, so they had to sort of basically eat it. They had to really go and firefight, and it cost them everything. Um, it completely exposed their backups and the lack of backups in some cases, and they had all their personnel details of their employees, including passports and everything else. And it was a complete unmitigated disaster and cost them significantly more money than the £850,000 that they could have bought their trouble out of it. I know this is unusual for us in the rare book trade, but the point is this is what can happen. The biggest weakness of how any of this can happen is basically us, the employees. Okay, and downloading that weird attachment, simply don't do it. It just takes one, and that's what can expose you. So I'm saying all these things, and these are unusual. So what do we do to protect ourselves against this? Actionable steps. So a lot of these are very obvious. Regular security updates. Now, it's something that my IT lot completely go at us all the time. You've got to keep your software update, plugins, operating systems updated. You'll get regular reminders. The patches cover vulnerabilities that hackers have now worked out. So they are important to keep those up to date. And this is important for perhaps the businesses with employees. Somebody in the business needs to be responsible for doing this. It doesn't happen by itself. Obviously, if you're a sole trader, then it's up to you. But it's someone to be responsible for keeping the security updates. The second thing here, strong passwords. I know it's obvious, but you get asked about it. It does make a difference. Um, of course, changing your passwords. Multi-factor authentication. Now, I'm going to come back to that later in a second, but it's a it's, well, 3D security. It's a second check, and I'll come back to that. Backups. Well, I mean, I've written on my notes here, backups, backups, backups. And backups are your own insurance against losing your data, and take an external backup. We at Peter Harrington, I can tell you, we take backups onto servers, we take backup onto external servers, and someone has a proper hard disk backup. Um, because if something happened to us and we lost our database, you're bankrupt. I mean, you're out. I mean, you've got your books, I guess, but you lost all your data, a complete disaster. And true story, a family member, funny enough, who owned a publishing house in New Zealand, they had the fire that destroyed the whole office, destroyed the whole business, and the secretary had the backup. It was only 2 weeks old, and they saved their business. It can happen. It's very unusual, but this is how you can protect yourself. But the last one is cybersecurity. That's a new one on me. We discovered this about a year ago, and it covers the costs associated with data breaches. And actually, I'm going to give you a definition. So, a cyber event, what it actually means is a suspected or actual unauthorized system access, electronic attack, or privacy breach, including denial of a service attack, cyber terrorism, hacking attack, Trojan horses, phishing, man in the middle attack, application layer attack, compromised key attack, malware infection, and a computer virus. All these things, these are cyber events. Now, you can actually take insurance to protect yourself against this. And it's something that we at Peter Harrington have chosen to do. Um, and it actually comes with other benefits. And it was quite interesting. Like a life insurance, you need a health check before any insurance company is going to insure you. And so we had to do a health check on our systems. And frankly, we failed. And so they gave us a list of two or three things to do to bring our security at Peter Harrington back up to standard so that they would insure us. One of the last things you can do to check website vulnerability is a system called Intruder. And there's other systems like it. Um, and the what Intruder does is it will test your systems for vulnerabilities. So you're paying someone to go in and deliberately try and hack your website, hack your servers, and if they do find out weaknesses, they will tell you what they are so you can fix them. So there's another thing you can do to protect yourself. And again, well, it brings me on to the next point, and that is different perspectives on how to handle this. The Depending on your business, depending on the size of your business and costs. Obviously, there's lots of this comes down to cost, and you have to decide what's value for you versus what you could lose. Um, and obviously, I think as a larger company, we are found to obviously spend more money on security than others. But there should be a balance, and there's some very simple things that people can do to protect themselves. Um, as a side note, I don't know how much this might affect apply to America, but um, in the UK, companies must report personal data breaches by law. There's a system called Information Commissioner's Office. Um, we need to report within 72 hours of becoming aware of a breach, else we are in breach ourselves, and we can be fined, and it can be quite severe. I'm curious to know in questions if you have the same in America, but and there really can be consequences. And if you have the data breaches, and like the British Library had, I can assure you they're going to have big fines because of all the personal data that are lost. So it really can have impacts, and size of business has nothing to do with it. By law, we're all duty bound to do that. Um, the good news is it is unusual. I think to have your servers hacked, your websites hacked is rare. And if you follow those simple things, I think you're probably okay. Um, Emails, however, are a bit more common. Email hacks, and they get hacked. And unfortunately, I know because it happened to me not that long ago, about a year ago. So I'll tell you my little story. We use Outlook 365, Microsoft, for the entire business. Um, I have a funny, unique email password, which was given to me by my IT team. Um, but someone hacked in. They did it via various pings of other things, and New York, it seemed to come from New York. What was interesting, they had gone into my emails, they had read my emails, they had worked out that I have an accounts team. They got the name of my accounts team, and they wrote an email from me to them saying, "Will you please pay this invoice?" And they presented an invoice attachment asking for £20,000 to be paid for some building works. They could see that we had been doing building works, so this was not an unusual request. Um, the so this is the conversation went like this. The lady who works for me, she wrote back apparently and said she got an email saying, please pay this bill, £20,000, it's urgent. And says, oh no, 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 really urgent, does it have to be done today? Yes, it needs to be done today. But why? Who are they? It's a new company I'm using, but I must pay us now. My accounts lady came downstairs to my office and she just goes, "But Pom, I've done the payments today. The next batch is in 2 days' time. Can it not please wait?" And I'm just like, "What are you talking about?" So what happened is they hacked. They've been writing the emails, but amazingly, and there's a feature on Microsoft, they cut off all replies from my internal from the staff. So all internal Peter Harrington emails, replies to me were cut off. I was receiving nothing, and they were controlling the conversation. And they weren't far off actually succeeding. So how do you protect yourself from an email hack? Or what do we do next? So we're lucky we caught it. We closed down the entire IT system. We had obviously a breach into our server or something, and every staff member was forced to change their password. The thing that we didn't have and we now have is multi-factor authentication. So that is, and I'm sure you've now all got it for credit cards when you do a credit card transaction. But for emails, if you log in to an email, be it Microsoft or Google, you'll get a ping to your phone, and Microsoft an app which you download. So if I when I log into my email, my phone will flash up and with a PIN number, and I have to put that PIN into my computer to get it. That second verification from my iPhone or my phone stops any third-party hacks. You really are secure. And that is actually one of the things that we had to do to get our insurance was to add that in. If you've not got multi-factor authentication on your emails, and if you learn one thing from today's talk, do that one thing. I think it's the most important thing that you can do, and it's the thing that everyone's going to be forced to do at some point, so you might as well do it now. Email security, multi-factor authentication. The second one, regular password change, is very obvious, but it's something they do tell us to do, and no one does, but we should. Email security software. So invest in robust email security software that can detect and filter phishing emails and malware. Microsoft and most of these have it as a standard, but make sure you've installed it. The last one's employee training, and I'm going to try and give you the name of one. But speaking to my IT staff, and I did a refresher before this talk today, um, it is actually the most common flaw in any company's IT security is going to be the employee not paying attention, downloading that silly attachment, um, allowing their screen to be taken over, whatever it may be. There are online courses that you can subscribe to, and I think at the end of all this, I'll probably recommend one. I don't have the name of one now, but you can do training courses online, and it won't be very long, but you could then share that with employees because I think that's probably the one big weakness that you can do something about. I think, I mean, hacks are rare, fortunately. So, no more about hacking. What affects most booksellers, and what do we face most danger from? And actually, it's fraud in the form of credit card fraud and bank fraud. Most booksellers would have actually experienced some form of attack in terms of credit card fraud against you, or wire fraud. Um, these days, if you have a credit card in your shop, credit card machine, someone comes in, they put the credit card into a slot. These days, you put a chip and pin, and as long as the pin corresponds with the card, then everyone's happy. It's gone through. It's secure. You, as a retailer, are protected 100%. Even if the credit card turned out to be stolen, if that pin is correct, it's not your problem. Same goes for Apple Pay. The idea being that only the owner of the credit card can know that pin. If they're stupid enough to let someone else have it, then it's their problem, not yours. Um, and swiping these days is very rare. I think in the US it still goes on. In Europe, is no swiping at all. It's all chip and pin. If you accept a credit card on your website, these days the customer has to use a PIN code too. Some sort of secondary security. You'll get an email to your to your email to correspond to confirm the payment, or you'll get an alert on your phone and you'll confirm. And as long as your credit card system, if you do your own one, has that secondary there's multi-factor authentication again, you'll be home and dry. No problem, you're guaranteed. And you can send the books wherever you wish to with those sales from the website. But what about telephone order? If you get a customer that phones up, you don't know who they are, and you take a credit card over the phone, and please ship this to me in New York or wherever it may be. Um, the US, I believe, is like the UK, that if you punch a credit card into the machine and it runs through and you send it to an address, essentially you're on your own. If that turned out to be fraudulent or stolen credit card, then the responsibility is on you, and the credit card holder will um, essentially have the right to retract the payment. And we sometimes used to do mail checks. So you phone up American Express or Visa, and you could say, "I'm going to send this to this. The address for the credit card is 216 Madison or whatever it may be." And if that corresponded with the credit card, then you were kind of safe. That in the UK does not work anymore, and I believe the US is the same. That check does not guarantee your payments. So how do you protect yourself? Because we've had problems with telephone credit card orders, and we now only do it with customers we actually know. And there is a solution, and it's something that we've only been doing fairly recently. And you can do most PDQ or credit card providers allow you to send an email invoice to that customer. That customer puts in their credit card details, and then they have to do that secondary check with the PIN. You get an email back saying that's all gone through, then you're home and dry. This is the same digital process essentially as taking a credit card in the shop, taking a credit card in your website. The moment you have that secondary authentication, you're done. And the email invoices or emailing the details and let the customer plug it in is golden. So now we don't take credit cards over the phone. We'll get the customer's email. We email the customer. They plug it in, and we just get notifications saying money collected. And you can send it wherever they want. It really makes no difference. You are home and dry. You are safe. So that is a new one. So other things, other scams that we had problems with, and shipment redirection, and that's been, I know, documented on the ABA before. It's there was a case of British booksellers got scammed a few years ago with FedEx, and we all got a bunch of orders, and we were sending to an address in Florida. The scammer would contact FedEx and change the address, and they changed it to some car park in Walmart. And it still amazes me that FedEx would do that. And the FedEx guy would deliver to an address at Walmart. The guy was there collecting. He collected the parcels. I think he got away with like 12 interceptions before he was caught out, as in we found out this was happening and we stopped doing that. But you can stop it. In FedEx case, it's simply a matter of what account you might have, and you can change your settings so that only you, the account holder, can redirect a parcel. No one else can redirect it, i.e., the customer cannot redirect the parcel. So if you haven't got that setting on your FedEx, and I suspect other couriers will have the same, make sure only you, the sender, can change the destination. Um, One of the problems we have is sending to a different address other than billing address. Um, and obviously what I'm suggesting earlier is that you get you email the credit card asking for the credit card to be plugged in. But a few years ago, obviously there's a bunch of US dealers that sold to an address in Essex in England, and it turned out to be a different address. It was redirected. So the address had nothing to do with the credit card, but yet all the cards got charged. Um, And I think for 10 days there was a lot of parcels going over, and the chargeback started coming through. And this is a nice story. So fortunately, we the book trade, we're a friendly bunch, and we have what is the ILAB network, email network, and we report stolen books. And it's a really nice win story that the address associated with this fraud got posted, and worldwide, and including especially the UK. The fraudsters obviously found out, nothing else got sent out. A few weeks later, those books showed up, fun enough, at our shop, and we recognized the books because it's all been posted, what books had been stolen. We gathered the books, we called the police, the guy ran off, never seen again, but the books were recovered, and happy days. And I think that's another security measure which we do ourselves as a community of the rare book trade, and it does show that works. Um, Not that, and of course, there's also missing book register, and the ABA and ABA all have our own sort of messaging service that we send when books are stolen. But it's a great example of it actually working. How are we doing for time? Fine. Um, as we have time, there's one more fraud I'm aware of, and it's called doorstepping, and it's happened to us a few times. And it's actually quite difficult to stop. Um, a fraudster has got someone's credit card. They place the order. They have the correct billing address, and you send them. I mean, Royal Mail and the Royal Mail in the UK, and the Royal Mail has tracking. You can actually track your parcel being delivered down the street, and the fraudster will stand around the corner from the house that the parcel's been delivered to. And as the tracking shows the delivery coming in, they pop around the corner and pretend to be coming home, and they intercept the parcel of the address. And the Royal Mail guy hands it over. It has happened. It's very rare. The the loss um, is on you if you haven't done a secondary security. So another reason why you want to do that, email the customer. If you do a telephone order, this has happened to us, you lose. And in that particular case, we lost out to the credit card company. The chargeback was made and the card holder was protected. So what's the actions? Credit card security, payment links, 3D security, address verification. There's the two things you want to do. And obviously chip and pin, which hopefully most people have now. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next bit. So the next one up is wire fraud. So we've had two proper attempts at wire fraud, and I think one of these is quite common that we need to be aware of. So the one that's unusual, and it's happened to us twice, or attempted, is a fraudster places an order. And in this particular case for us, it was a painting. It was a £5,000 painting. It's a painting I've had for 10 years in stock. And they placed the order on the website and they asked to do a bank transfer. Fantastic. We emailed them the invoice for a bank transfer. The next morning, the £5,000 doesn't appear. It's £50,000, which is rather strange. We then get a panicked phone call from some lady in Dubai saying that she is the secretary of the person that ordered the painting. She made a mistake. She sent a zero too many. Can we wire transfer back the £45,000 difference and the painting? Our hackles were raised. We were a bit suspicious. But the thing I didn't understand was that this appeared to be a wire transfer into our bank account and cleared funds. And the truth is, it wasn't. It was actually electronic check, and I've not come across it before. Um, and being a check, it can bounce. So they sent some form of electronic check. It showed as a credit in the accounts, but it wasn't strictly speaking a wire transfer, and very easy to miss. So um, how do we protect ourselves from that one if it looks like a wire transfer? Well, because she's asking for a refund, you really want to check with the bank that that is genuine and clear funds, if that should happen to you. Um, but there's another policy, and we've had it before, that if for whatever reason you have to do a refund on something like this, we have developed a policy, and it actually means not to be rushed. And we now never issue a refund for at least 8 working days. And that allows enough time for anything wrong to appear in the transaction. And if someone gets agitated by that, well, tough. It's their mistake in the first place that they sent the wrong amount of money. But we've had another incident as well. If you rush back to refund somebody, it's sometimes is where you get caught out. And taking that pause will really help. The biggest danger on wire fraud, though, is back to email hack or interception with bank details. Now, I'm sure most people have done um, a big purchase, which is normally buying a house in recent years. And if you do a large wire transfer, there's normally a phone call from the person that's sending the money to confirm the bank details of where they're sending it to. And that is something we've started to do because we've had one instance ourselves where an interception was made, and I've heard some horror stories of other people. So to reiterate, we send an invoice with the bank details and the customer pays us. If that email is intercepted, someone can manipulate the invoice and they put their own bank details on, and so that customer pays the invoice. That's the danger. If you get sent instructions of where to pay money to, then you should call up that person and verbally confirm the bank details. In our industry, in our world, normally for me, that means paying a customer. If we're buying a collection from somebody and they email over their bank details, I will always call them up to verbally check. And if you have a change of bank details, and this thing did happen to us. I won't say the dealer, but one of the other dealers that we work with all the time in America. Um, they got an email saying, "Oh, by the way, we've changed our bank. Here is our new details. Chase Bank, blah blah blah. No problem." The next payment, and it was for quite a lot of money, was sent out by that person, and it was only intercepted actually by their own bank, who recognized that the payment they were making to was a fraudulent account, and the payment was stopped. But it was very nearly a disaster for both sides, and ultimately it's the person sending the wire that is responsible, unless the person who sent the details they can demonstrate they were hacked. But the point is, you're going to have an argument, and if it's a lot of money, then it's a problem. So always phone up. If there's a change of bank details, phone up and verbally check, especially if it's for a lot of money. Okay. So wait for clear funds, 8 days, 8 working days, verbal check on the bank details for new wire transfers of any high value. I think that's important, which brings me on to the last bit. Conclusion. 5 things to take away from this. Offline back. These are the simple ones. Offline backups. So your database is old-fashioned, but have a copy of your databases. Someone actually in charge for security updates, so it doesn't get left behind. A third one, I think, is the most important one: installing multi-factor authentication. Um, like I said, if you haven't got it yet on your email systems, you're going to soon enough. Microsoft will make it compulsory at some point, and I think it's the biggest thing you can do to protect yourself. For credit card payments, for collecting credit cards, use payment links with 3D security, and do not expect credit cards payments by phone or from strangers on the phone. If it's your regular customer, of course, you will take a position on that. And the last one is carry out telephone checks on new bank details from suppliers. So those are 5 relatively easy, simple things to be done that will make a difference in protecting you and your business from losing money. And all those things have happened to us, I'm sorry to say. So Lizzie, it brings me to the end of my 35 minutes, 40 minutes.
Very, yeah, 40 minutes. Actually, we had somebody, Jim Owens said that the cyber attacks the U.S. is state by state, actually.
Okay. So
So
state by
everybody,
state responsibility whether you report it or not. So it's probably worth finding out. Like I say, in the UK, the fines are quite substantial if you don't.
right, right. So yeah, everybody needs to look into that. On their own. One thing that before, anybody who has any questions, please put them in the chat. But one of the things that struck me, so you said some weird attachments. So a lot of people won't understand what you're talking about. Maybe you want to, you know, give some more information on that.
Sure. So it's that fine. It's called phishing email. So someone you don't recognize has sent you an email. There's a little attachment there, and it might just say, oh, please find my new details. And you don't know who it is, and you just click on the attachment to find out what that is. If you don't understand, if you don't know it, do not open it. Because basically it's called phishing. And what they're trying to do is plant a bit of code onto your computer to extract data, to clone your browser history. Your browser history has passwords on it for all the accounts that you use. That's what they're looking for. They're trying to put some malware on your computer so that next time you go in your bank, they're watching what you're doing, they can see your email, they can see your password, and they're in. That's what they're looking for. And it is the
Yeah, and
most
we
common
we get
form of
so used
fraud.
to just clicking all the time, just
You
getting
do.
things done. So yes, and I think one of the things that you said was slow down.
Yeah.
The idea of slowing down, talking to somebody, I think is a really great thing. Somebody asked, JWK Books asked, can you provide more information about the intruder computer check service?
Yeah, in the sense that I will probably provide more information afterwards. I'm happy to do so. But Intruder is the system that we use. So it's a subscription based. You can pay $100, $200, $300 a month. But basically, you're paying them to try and break into your systems. So either your servers or your websites or whatever, and they're looking for weaknesses. Have you updated the patches? And if they get in or they find weaknesses, they send you an email saying you're safe, or we found that this is not up to date. You need to update that software. So that's what it's called.
And that's the okay.
Intruder, I think, is the actual name of the website. I was looking at it earlier, but apparently that's what we use. But I think what I might do is just the next day or so, just collate a couple of these websites that we use to help.
Oh, thank you. We've got Joe Fay is asking very helpful advice. Thank you. Just starting a new book business, probably not. But any specific advice for a new book business?
Oh, crikey. Um, well, a new business, I think a new book business is probably a bit simpler in a way because it's just you and you control everything. So you don't have to um, worry too much about anything. Um, but no, just new passwords. Actually, one of the bits of advice that I was told earlier is when you change your passwords, never go back to an old one.
Hmm.
And apparently, that's quite a common route of how people go back in. So if you go back to one from 5 years ago, that's sitting in someone's something, and apparently never go back was one of the other advices. Um, but I think, Joe, at the end of the day, you've got your database and you'll have your own passwords for that. Um, you're probably not going to have your own website yet. You can using ABEs to. You don't have that worry particularly because ABE books, I mean, they have all the security for you to not have to deal with it. So, and credit card, a proper credit card. Um, so now you can set yourself up with digital credit card taking. So make sure that the two-phase credit card check is done.
Right. Never your pets, never cats or dogs, never your children. Absolutely not. Michael Laird says passwords. Never repeat the same password, even a password that is no longer in use. Phil Salomon, password generators are useful tools.
They
I
are.
actually never
They
use.
are. I don't
Yeah.
like them, but they are useful tools. I'm naughty in that sense. But I know you're supposed to use them. I use them on my phone. I use the generation on my phone because obviously then you have your facial password as well.
Right. I guess you could be a little frightened of if the password generator is actually working for you or not working for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, one other thing I did make a note of, and it's I didn't mention it before. Institutional orders. So it happened to us once during lockdown, um, but we had a fake internet institutional order, and essentially what you needed to look at was the email address that it came from, and just make sure the email address is the institution and not someone's Gmail.
Right. I mean, I do get a lot of things where you have somebody's assistant, somebody is
Hmm.
in another part of the university coming in and taking over. And again, I guess what you're saying is slow down.
Slow down, but actually, if you click on the, if you look on top of the email and you click on it and open up what the email address actually is, it might say the name of it, but sometimes it's a random Gmail address. So it happened to us. Funny if it wasn't institutional order, it was something else. I had an email from a member of staff, and it just said the name of the staff sorry, the name of the member of staff on the email, and it just said, "Oh, by the way, Pom, my bank account's changed. Can my payroll be sent to this new bank details?" It's a very odd email, and I clicked on their name, and behind it was just some Hotmail address.
Oh,
I mean,
and
it was a crude attempt, but they knew that I was the owner, and they had the name of the person who worked for me.
right. James Goldwasser gave a shout out to in US malware bytes is something that you can also use for that for the checking. And then we have good to do for any inbound emails to check the inbound address. You can hover over it to see, which is what you just said. Well, fantastic. We can thank Pom for coming into the Brown Bag Lunch this October. And if anybody, this is just a shout out, if anybody has any ideas for upcoming Brown Bag Lunch, if they have anything that is, pertains to the rare book business, please give the ABA a email or a call. We are always interested in other topics. So thank you. Thank you,
Awesome.
Pom.
Thank you very much.
We'll see
See you
you
in
in
Boston.
Boston.